So thank you, and amazing to be here in this conference. This is a truly fantastic place, and even during the conversation during lunch, it was great to see the kind of people participating in this event. I think is a great occasion for us. Today we will discuss the intersection between the space economy and the kind of polycrisis or very difficult situation that we have now in the world. I think all of you are aware about the inflation crisis, rising interest rate, war in Ukraine, and unfortunately this morning terrible and very frightening news coming from Israel. So it's not a simple time. And space is an industry that is connected and intersecting with most of or all of those crises. Today we will speak with two great speakers, Veronica and Regina. She's the CEO of Space Cargo Italy, a great manager within the space industry, former CEO at Nanorax Europe, lecturer at the International Space University, and many other things. And we have also Roberto Carnicelli. Roberto, he's a space founder, he's a co-founder and CEO at Aeolian. Aeolian is a great company at the intersection between climate, and of course solving climate problems, AI, and space. And me, I'm an investor, so I'm trying to support, when possible, these people, basically. So I'll start asking Roberto and Veronica, what do you do? What is your organization, and which kind of challenges are you solving now? I will start maybe with Roberto.
All right. Okay. Can you hear me well? Because before in the back of the room I couldn't hear very well. So I'm making some. Okay, everybody. Okay, I see some sign in the back, so that's good. So as Raffaele said, I'm the founder and CEO of Aeolian. We are a climate tech startup, and we leverage satellite data from the European Space Agency and NASA, and machine learning algorithm to predict climate events, so flood, drought, wildfire, and so on. And we do this for a specific target, which are financial service industry, so insurances, banks, infrastructure company, and so on. So what we develop is a plug-and-play API that, giving any address everywhere in the world, right now in the continental Europe, can assess this kind of risk in terms of probability, intensity, and an impact on any asset. So this is what we do. So a little bit, you know, as Raffaele said, it's a cross. So it's not pure space solution, but it's leveraged space solution for an Earth problem, let's say.
Thank you, Roberto. And Veronica, what about yourself?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much. I mean, to extend the invitation and involvement in this beautiful community. I am actually a follower. This is my third edition of Techtalia, so very great. Considering the mission of the company I represent, I would say that if we look that we go to space since the 4th of October 1957, where it was just a reaction between Soviet at that time and US, and we see the current geopolitical landscape, as Raffaele said, seems that we didn't do too much work. Okay, we are back on the same tension. But what is the bet of this scenario is that we have done a lot of things. So we discover actually how to benefit from space, particularly the low Earth orbit, where you have a number of stressors, like exposure to radiation, experience of hypergravity to go there, microgravity when you reach the LEO, and closer to the UV, so you are closer to the sun, and additionally, this really unusual pressurized and unpressurized environment. So basically, when you have all this challenge, you prove that something is still working is very good. So these things that are very good, they came back to Earth, they have been implemented in our daily life. So there is no doubts that pursuing the space journey give us benefit to Earth. Now where we are and where is the positioning of the space cargo to develop a re-entry capability for doing in-orbit production, because actually we have been proven that things are magnificent, are nice, can work, but to really implement in the daily life, we need a lot of space, so a dedicated infrastructure for doing a consistent volume of production in orbit. Can be a new variety of plants, can be new drugs, can be 3D cells, because without gravity the cells is growing in 3D directly and not in 2D. So fiber optic, many other things at affordable with a high quality, we need a volume. That's why we are coming to have a dedicated infrastructure to go up, perform a in-orbit production, come down, and to release the benefit in all the sectors they may need, and they definitely need it.
Okay, thank you, Veronica, for the perspective. And I'll start with you asking the intersection with the current situation, because you are a manager, I would say a top manager within the emerging space economies, especially focused on companies building something new, so not the traditional aerospace contractors and so on. What was the impact during the last few years in terms of supply chains, rising prices, and in general, the ambiguity and uncertainty of the current environment? What was your experience?
Well, obviously, I mean, when particularly the Ukraine-Russia crisis started, the 24th of February 2022, particularly the International Space Station was a matter of what is going on, because there, they have a human being in orbit, and there is a concrete cooperation and exchange of technology on both sides between US and Russia. Then with the embargo policy, also from the European to the Russian, I mean, there was a question how we are going to move and what we are going to do. So to preserve the human being in orbit, the reaction was to consider exempt the ISS cooperation by the embargo policy. At the same time, of course, the concern came up, and when you have a barrier for that you cannot do something you really want to do, so you are elaborating creativity to overcome the challenge. That's why the answer has been that, the Antares, we had the last Cygnus coming up from Wallops Island with the Ukrainian-Russia element, and now the Cygnus, this transportation vehicle to the ISS, is going to be embarked on a fully US vehicle that is Falcon 9. So, and at the same time, the US reacted, to develop their independent technology for rocket. So they are no longer going to outsource element on that side of the world. The same story we can see like Vega, that was exploiting some technology from the Ukrainian, and now there is the, let's say, the intention to move part of the supply chain. So I would say that as a space person, the space community reacted very well. They, in a way that they found the barrier as an opportunity to move forward, to involve other actors, and to strengthen, what they have in their domestic line. The same reaction, for instance, has been with China. China now has a fully populated and, let's say, performing space station. They have done by themselves, because the rest of the world was allowed, was not allowed, they didn't want, anyhow, they said, we go anyway. And this is, I would say, the approach of a new space company like I represent. I looked around, I asked help, because, you need help for making this such project, this endeavor. And if you say that you want something and the others say no, you find a way to say yes. And that's why, we are challenging with a number of requests, because, for a space business, but in business in general, you have two drivers, revenue generation and cost effective. So maybe it will be a little bit longer, require an effort, but this is the direction, I would say.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to ask to Roberto, as a tech entrepreneur on the software side of things, about your bottlenecks. And I think one of them is talent. So how do you attract, motivate, retain talent in our current context?
I think this is a good question, because when we talk about space, it's usually their capital-intensive activities. So to attract talents, you need money. To get money, you need commitment. And when the time span of this kind of investment goes, far away, it creates uncertainty, and so giving those kind of money becomes difficult, and also so attracting talents that change their perspective, because when these kind of events happen, people change their focus, right? We were talking before during lunch. So the focus between short-term events and long-term events, right? Now, we are quite lucky, specifically in Aeolian, because we not only operate in space, we also operate in climate, and people are super interested in this kind of topic. They want to have a purpose in what they do. So for us, let's say we are in a happy bubble in which we target many different aspects. We target space, which is kind of fascinating, right? There are a lot of people. Actually, we are based in Turin. In Turin, we have a great university for aerospace engineering. We operate in climate, people looking for purpose in climate. And we operate in AI, which now it's boom, right? Everybody talks about AI, and they're putting AI everywhere. So for us, it's quite easy. I mean, easier probably than other realities. But for sure, the environment, it's putting some obstacles in the way, right? And these kind of obstacles are more on international talents. So how can I attract talents coming from other countries in a situation where there is big uncertainty, there are geopolitical conflicts. So some areas become gray zone, right? It becomes more difficult to have visa, for example, for the people coming. There are also maybe families issues. For example, we were trying to hire a young man coming from, originally from Iran. Now, for example, that was like super talented person that wanted to work in this sector. Has past experience in that, was studying in Italy at the Politecnico di Torino, and wanted to come to work for us, but then there was a lot of visa problem, and he decided not to stay in Italy and go back. So geopolitical issues generate some obstacles on this aspect, and I think this is really a problem because, as before was said, space is generate value in the collaboration, right? And if you are a country and you cannot collaborate anymore, you find your own way, as you said correctly before. But still, it's it's something very, let's say, complex. Countries need to collaborate in this sector because it's a long-term view of how the world would look like. So putting this kind of barrier, the geopolitical, financial, or any, it's, I think, a big obstacle to this kind of industry that needs collaboration, it needs solution, needs a long-term view of the world and how things should be. So I think this is the main problem. The sector is interesting. People are fascinated by this. It's probably the future. So you attract talents, but then you have external factors you cannot control that put barriers. And in a sector where international collaboration is fundamental, those barriers are really a problem because you're damaging both the countries and the companies that work in those countries that want to do something in the sector. But still, right now, I don't think the situation is dramatic still, at least for what I've seen, but it could be in the future, in the coming years, we will see. So yeah, I mean, we're also lucky that in the European Union, we have so many countries that you're sure that will collaborate, right? There is like this big certainty. Which is great because you are able to attract talents coming from so many different countries with different backgrounds, with different culture, we generate a lot of values. So yeah, I think it's a complex topic, but we are in a sweet spot. And of course, I hope that more peaceful times will be better, that's for sure. But I mean, nothing impossible to solve right now.
Yeah, yeah. And space, of course, is, I would say, a double-sided industry because there is, of course, the positive impact and on climate change and scientific spin-offs. But on the other side, there is the military component. Space is about command, communication, and control for military operations. It's about military intelligence. It's about prevention of nuclear weapons, attacks, and so on. Again, we live in an area that some people define as a deglobalization or reglobalization or a different form of international order in development. In terms of productive chains and supply chains, there is this process of reshoring or friendshoring where historically historical industrial facility are now relocated or in the process of relocation within the United States, European Union, or friendly countries like Vietnam and so on. I'm going to ask to Veronica what is your perception of this process, and if you have any kind of interaction with your direct experience as a manager or entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to do things in space, you also need a lot of space and instrumented asset capacity on Earth. So, I mean, let's say they may become a sort of bottleneck to be ready to go up to space, you know, testing facility, preparing the payload, assembly integration, and so on. And I mean, of course, if you are used to do something in some place and at a certain point you have to move to another place, at least you have a different menu cost. You have to do the list and you have to move to somewhere else and find a way to do promptly and effectively. So this is really something that is, let's say, an everyday job when you manage a company. When particularly you don't have, let's say, the luxury to be fully vertically integrated, that whatever happens, I have everything at my place. So that's why big boys that now they are fully vertically integrated, maybe they suffer less of this problem of supply chain, location of the asset production, and so on. I would say that we had this type of problem. I mean, we are going to mitigate in a way that being still a young, agile company, we can work as a partner with the big one that they are more vertically integrated. So the case of Space Cargo that we choose as technological partner, Thales Alenia Space, that they have done this type of pressurized module since decades, in a way that they know how to easily switch and how to manage fluctuation in this way. This is our response, let's say.
Okay. And on the flip side, we mentioned the positive impact. I'm curious from Roberto. So what about climate change, and what is the role of space technology in solving climate change, or in the menu of solutions for climate change? What is your perspective?
Well, so let's put it in this way. I think it is like crucial for all the aspects of climate change. So let's take the climate market. Climate market is divided into mitigation and adaptation, right? Mitigation means how can we minimize our impact on the changing of climate, right? So emission, carbon footprinting, measurement, reducing CO2 in the air, and so on and so forth. So this is all climate mitigation. Then we have climate adaptation. That means climate has already adapted, has already changed, right? And we need to adapt to this new climate, which is where we operate. So understanding how climate change, it's making those events, extreme climate events, more or less likely, more or less impactful, and so on and so forth. Now, in all those markets, space solutions are crucial. Let's go from the beginning. So climate mitigation. What do you have to start from? Measuring emission, right? So how can we know how much CO2 we have in the air? This is the first question. Now, with satellite observation, we can do that. Second is, how can we know where those emissions are made? Now, with satellite images, we can understand where this is making. Let's move to climate adaptation, where we operate. Now, we use satellite data to understand topological variable, physical variable of the land, understand how those variables are changing to climate and how they are impacting extreme climate events, monitoring those events, assessing them, and then, of course, then predicting it. So in all those aspects of climate, we are using space-related technologies. So I think space and climate are going in the same direction. Now, of course, on climate, then we have another huge market that is let's say, acting, for example, to reduce garbage generation or taking plastic from the ocean. Now, this, of course, is another market. But to understand, analyze, and keep tracking of things, I think space technologies are fundamental. and that's why it's so important that these two markets goes positively together, right? They have to go side by side, and that's why also I was talking before on the need of collaboration, because climate is a global issue. So space needs to be a global solution. We need to collaborate. We need to put those talents, as we were saying before, technologies, satellite information, all available to improve and optimize all this process. So I think it's very important. So there are two different markets. They have some similarities, some differences, but for sure they're going together and they need to support each other. I think space is an enabler for climate, for climate change action. So yeah, so I think we need to boost both of them and actually use one of them to solve the other. So I hope that these two markets both is going to grow in the near future, because it's also our future. It's not just a market dynamic.
Yeah, I think this is very important because while our life is constantly pushed by smartphones, news cycles, short-run electoral cycles, and so on, space is something that is forcing us to think long run, to invest, to research, to study. So I think that's important. I have a last question for Veronica. You mentioned the International Space Station. International Space Station was one of the largest engineering projects created by humanity, basically. It's a product of the end of the Cold War and a very large collaboration between multiple countries. So what is happening? What will be the future of the International Space Station or the new space stations, or do we need them? So what is your opinion?
Yeah, it would be a very interesting time, to be honest, because there is a wording that talk about post-ISS scenario, and most of the proposal on the table at the moment, they just see a replacement, thinking about a platform for hosting astronauts and performing experiment activity and so on. For me, this is a sort of deja vu. I will doubt, let's say in this way, that they are the solution for the post-ISS, because it's denying what has been done in all these years. I would better see, something where the role of the human space flight will have a dedicated role where the astronauts, they go and they produce in orbit, maybe they work directly in orbit. And for this, I don't think you need a big space, so it will be just be dedicated for habitation. And then will be the rest of many other platforms ad hoc dedicated for each user case that is peculiar to perform in space. Completely different, maybe more like a spaceship, giving the opportunity much easier to go everyone, get the ride, pay the ticket, go up, do something and come back. And on the other side, a number of diversified platforms doing, let's say, almost 80% what has been just conceived as a proof of idea on the experience of the ISS in a more dedicated and prolific way. That's my view.
So thank you, Veronica. I think that our time is ending. I'm asking Gabriel, do we have a couple of minutes for questions? So yes. I'm going to ask if someone in the audience do you have questions, and feel free to ask everything.
Not all together, otherwise we don't.
Round for space companies and space in general. It was such a hot business 2 years ago. You've got the launch costs coming down and Elon making it so that it's cheaper than ever to launch into space. Do you think from a fundraising environment we still can do crazy things in space, like thinking about doing solar panels in space or sending up nuclear waste into space, which I don't know why anybody would do it, but I've had people pitch me that. But from that standpoint, do you think as the launch costs get cheaper and cheaper, does the economic implications of this zero interest rate phenomenon being gone affect the mission, vision, and future of the space race environment?
Well, definitely, I mean, if the ticket to go up is lower, means that more people then can participate. And more people participate, more creative ideas are available. So definitely we are thinking about to do other things, many other crazy things. We will learn from failure, from success, whatever it is. You know, it is like low-cost airlines. How many people were flying from Rome to London 10 years ago, and how many people fly now? Also, you know, you unlock participation at a younger stage, you know, because you can afford, you know, 1,000 euros ticket when you are 20, 25, but before was a number of millions, so you could not participate at that age. You should be rich later in your career path. So yes, I mean, this is really a good point. I do believe this is let's say, enabling more activity to be done. It's not a matter to lose money for the one they are doing the launching, because they have more quantity and more frequency to go up. So,
how many launches is it per week that SpaceX does? I can't remember. Maybe Raffaele knows.
I think per week is still a number one. I think the launching campaign time, the lead time is
still one per
22
week.
days.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's 22. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
I think they made like 60 launches, SpaceX, in 2022.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Slightly more than one per week. Yeah. And just one fun fact about that, and then there is a question there. It's relevant to speak about, to discuss investing technology and venture capital and risk-taking here in Venice, because actually 600 years ago there was the Commenda Veneziana, which was a financial process to invest in risky merchant ships going abroad for commercial transactions, and it was very similar, kind of very similar to the limited partner, general partner structure of venture capital funds. So Venice was is connected to our discussion. Sorry, it was just before the Renaissance, so like 600 years ago. Yeah.
Following up on Gabriel's question, whenever I see trends, I like to see infrastructure layers and key things that unlock trends to happen, right? So if for AI's GPUs and fractional currency and computational power, for space, what's the next big type of technology that can unlock a new frontier? Is it spaceship? Is it Starlink? What is it exactly the next frontier that in the space community you cannot wait that to happen, because an entire new frontier will open if that happens?
Okay. Well, you know, a space program, a space mission is a very comprehensive journey in a way that you need a contribution from any source of technological field: electronics, avionics, cable, harness, computing, softwaring, hardware, materials. So, I mean, it's very demanding. In one shot, you get contribution of everyone. And each single technological field has their own trends and path. At the end of the story, when something goes to space, it's successful if it works. I mean, then it became really binary. I mean, any choice you have done. The big trends, I would say, they are definitely involving quantum computing. They are definitely involving artificial intelligence, you know, because by definition you have something really far away that if you cannot communicate, it's better that the baby knows what to do. You know, so it's in itself very important to have a need. Also materials, I mean, in a way that you use a big amount of materials. Now they are switching from metallics to steel to other smart material, conceiving also production of new material in space, you know, and then coming back for utilization. So I would say it's really a big forum for technology innovation in itself. Now, coming to the big, who is going to be the big challenge. I have been really admired, let's say, from the pioneer of OneWeb, you know, to conceive the production of a satellite in series. So it was a big shift in the process of doing space, because before, you know, you were doing the ground model, then the engineering model, and then the flight model, and then the one that was working to go in space and having a backup and the spare satellite on Earth. So it was many single steps you are doing. So instead to do a copy of a copy of a copy and see what is going wrong and what you have to adjust, they said, look, let's do production in series in a way that each one will be the evolution of the next one, in a way that if everything works well, we have 5 satellites instead of 1. So it's just something logical. Why we didn't think 20 years ago? I don't know. But, you know, at the end, it was really a matter of 1 week of brainstorming to conceive, to be done things in this way.
Just let me add that even for hardware innovations, software is very important. For instance, reusable rockets, we have them also because we can solve in an easier way convex optimization problems, and so there are software innovations even within hardware disruption. And just one quick comment from Roberto. I think this is your...
No, actually, I think this was a very good question. So, as Veronica said, this space market is so big that we need to make a distinction between upstream and downstream. So either you launch things on the space or you get things back from the space. So the satellite argument that Veronica was talking about is an upstream issue. So how can I launch so many satellites in a more efficient, cost-effective, controlled, and high-quality way? But if we go on the downstream market, so how can I get things from space down to Earth, which is, for example, where we operate, then there are many trends that I think is very interesting. For us, one of the biggest one is edge computing on satellite, so cloud computing on the satellite, because we gather so many information, those information that go back to the Earth, we take the raw data, we need to elaborate it, and it's a very long process. But what about if we could elaborate the data directly when it's gathered, which is on the satellite? This means we could get back already the elaborated information on Earth, and it will be extremely more efficient, and we will be able just to take the data that we actually need. So this, for example, is a big frontier for the downstream market. That has some issues technically, but we will see. So for us, it's this, and of course, then I say AI, because when we talk about not generative AI in this case, but just pure AI for elaboration of big data, we talk about satellite data. We today are generated around 150 terabytes of data every single day from Earth observation satellite in orbit. So this means that we take just the satellite, they do Earth observation, so we are not taking into account Starlink satellites or satellite that generates, for example, internet connection or GPS and so on, but we just take Earth observation. The amount of data is so big that elaborating all those information and gathering just the information that we need from those data, this is very complex. So for us, for example, it was a big challenge at the beginning. So I think AI, it's a big driver. Edge computing on satellites is going to be a big driver. And then quantum computing, I totally agree, which is correlated for the same reasoning. So how can I get the most out of those data? So I think these are the big trends for the downstream market, which is the one we operate. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So thank you for the questions. Again, thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Veronica.